Welcome to the Waldorf GridIron Club podcast, your home for all things football at Waldorf University, the best small college football experience in America. Hosted by Andy Buffington and me, Troy Thompson, from the secret gridiron bunker beneath Volsdorf Field. Now, let's meet the captains of today's podcast.
All right, welcome to this edition of the Waldorf GridIron Podcast, Season 2, Episode number 3. And I'll tell you what, we're just plugging along. So, we developed a theme. Our first one, we had our one of our favorite guys, Tay Buchanan, on. And then there were some changes. Coach Will Finley, he's made the decision to pack up the family, head down to Lindenwood University, where he'll be the linebackers coach down there. And we're just super excited for him and couldn't thank him enough for all those years of service. Well, 4 that he gave us, 3 as head coach, and he kept this program on. And then we had that new the youngest coach in the United States, head coach in the United States of America, college head coach, and that was Chase Paramore. So now we have to keep the theme going. Troy, you know what the theme is?
Is it coaches?
It is a coach, and this coach also has some notoriety. This coach is the oldest coach on the current Waldorf football staff. Oldest. And that gentleman is none other than our very own Tyler Chapa, who was recently named Waldorf's brand new defensive coordinator. Congratulations, Coach.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Congratulations.
I would like to say,
please.
I would like to say now,
Woo!
our audience out there. No, I appreciate it. No, I'm excited. I've learned a lot from Coach Finley, and I'm obviously grateful for Coach P for, believing in me and naming me the guy. And I would like to add, though, Darwin Christensen is still on our staff.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're talking about full-time guys, but he's a balmy 40. In my book. No, he's older than me.
He is. He's older.
He's older than
I think he's older.
So if you have to count Darwin, you'd almost have to count me too, because I'm just.
You are on our staff, but Darwin.
We talked about that. I don't think I am.
Coach Christensen is in our staff directory.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes.
So
I am not.
But full time guys. It feels weird.
Lay low.
I'm not even 30 yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, defensive coordinator at a major American university before the age of 30.
Yep, and that was a goal 5 years ago I had. With my wife, we set out. I said, I would like to be a DC by the time I'm 30.
Really? And so Nicole, she all into this? She's pretty excited for you, I'll bet?
Yep. She actually just did all of her paperwork to be a substitute teacher at the high school.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh,
She's trying to get back in. She loves working there and being around the kids and families. So,
well, I know that the school district really appreciated what she did.
Mm-hmm.
So
and now she's back for round 2.
That is outstanding. That's just fantastic.
It is fantastic, is it not?
One big happy family here at the U.
Yeah. So Coach, you're gonna have to tell the story about in your office right after the announcement. That was one of my favorite stories.
What do you mean?
In your office? You were there, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that was going down that day.
So, okay, there's obviously some players that have a little bit of anxiety right away.
Yeah.
So like immediately after you went back to your office.
And they were just piling in.
Yeah.
All of them were just piling in because change could be,
scary,
scary and difficult. And some of these guys have gone through that already. So,
I bet that's right. Yeah. The people we've talked to folks on the podcast, and how many have come from other programs because of those type of changes.
You bet.
Yep. And so for us as a staff, we want to keep the ship going, and I think the university does too. And so they were coming in, and I wanted Coach P to be the one to tell everybody. So they were like, "Well, who's going to be our defense coordinator?" And I was like, "I don't know." Because the president and the athletic director came in, but then they had to go to weights right away. So there was not a whole lot of time to process, what was just going on. So, we hustled our butts over to weights, and that's when Coach Paramore told, because we have 2 groups of weights, so that's when he told each group right before they got going. So it was good to see their reaction. They believe in me, and they were happy, and I think it helps with, I know all these guys already. I've helped recruit a lot of these guys, and I think it gives them some comfort too.
Well, you are a very good recruiter, and obviously that's a lot of people don't think about unless you're really into college football, understanding the way that the business end of it works. You are the coach. People think you're drawing the X's and O's all year, and that's the fun part of the job.
Yep.
A good half or more, I would say maybe 3/4 of the job is this constant contact with kids.
Yeah, and this is actually, and if you're like, Nicole knows this, but this is actually like, I'm more busy.
This is
now.
prime time.
And during the week, you have your schedule of practice and weights, and when you get to go home and you start getting into that routine. But now it's like, well, I could be, I might have 4 or 5 kids to call tonight.
Right.
And I told you we were going to watch this movie, but I gotta make these phone calls, and it just pops up. It's nonstop.
Yep. I totally understand that. That is exactly what it was like to recruit for the military. Although probably not as enthusiastic all the time. I was probably the one that's like, listen, I got to make 100 phone calls tonight.
Yeah.
And not people calling me or sending their tweets and their stats and things like that.
But it's fun. You get to know the kids and their families, and it makes it easier when they're actually here. Because if they are going through something or have an issue, you're at least already connected to them.
Right. Well, look, I know that you've just got a lot of respect. That is absolutely obvious. I think that's what Andy was getting at. Folks are piling in your office. They do. So you must make quite an impact. We've talked to you before on this show. We've seen you in action. I've heard what kids say about you and how they talk about you even on this program. And so that is obviously a good thing for everybody, to keep you around. And Coach Paramore says, look, we have a strong defense. This is the guy that we need to have, making sure that we take it into the future. And it is exciting that we've got a fairly young crew.
Yeah.
Steering this ship.
Yeah. When and I don't, Coach Chapa, I don't know how old you are, and I don't care. You don't have to tell anybody, but you're not 30 yet, obviously. And the fact that you're the senior member of full-time staff, do a lot of the guys come to you for, like advice?
Yeah, they do. And when I first got here, they didn't. It was just I don't think that's based off of age. I think that's as you are in one place for a long period of time, you actually get to know, like there's, I don't know, offensive linemen who I don't work with ever that come into my office and just talk about, everyday stuff or just want to come in and goof around before practice. And that just is the relationships that you build. And Coach Finley was huge, and Coach Paramore's the same way, but huge on making an impact on everybody, not just the guys that you coach in your position group, not just the guys that you coach in your offensive or defensive unit, but everybody on the team. And I think a part of that for me, why that was easy this year, was because I did all the special teams for us.
Right.
I'm coaching offensive linemen on the punt team or receivers on our punt return team. So I'm reaching out to everybody, and everybody knows my coaching style and kind of how I operate.
And there you go, which is really handy for the team as they move through this transition. I don't know if it's it's convenient that it's in-house, and so that is good for the team. They already know kind of what to expect from everybody. It's not like Colorado situation where all of a sudden, I'm sure that's fresh in everybody's mind, and everybody's like, "Oh, what's going to happen?"
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like that. People,
you could have committed to Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah, that's a bad deal.
That is a bad deal.
We don't need to.
No.
We don't need to talk about it.
No, absolutely not. But I feel. I'm a huge Ed Reed fan.
I am too.
And it's kind of one of those that and he's getting beat up for his passion, and good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him for standing up for himself and pointing out BS when BS is stuck to the wall.
And I will say one more thing on kind of the transition or the passing of the torch was, number one, it was really tough, because Coach Finley and I are, we're pretty good friends outside of football. We're actually friends, and
you're both old.
Yeah. No. But like just watching him,
you golfing partners. Yeah, I know.
Well, his birthday's March 4th, mine's March 6th.
There you go.
We've gone on some trips together,
nice.
And I got real close with his family. But just watching him kind of dress the team,
Yeah.
And the sincere and genuineness with him. I mean, it was hard to watch it. It was hard for him, you could tell. But the other cool part was when Coach Paramore was announced. It was kind of that roller coaster, because then there was excitement and guys were clapping and everybody was kind of happy.
Yeah. And I knew something was going on because
we were acting weird.
Weird?
Yeah, well,
no, that's an understatement.
Anybody.
Well, of course you can't tell anybody.
I was like, don't talk to me right now. I'm going to spill the beans.
And everybody's talking about their upset stomachs. Yeah. And, oh, man, I've lived in the bathroom today. Like, okay, what's going on? And Coach Chop is just not himself. Usually he's all sorts of smiles. He's got this sly smile all the time. And he's just sliding over to everybody. Hey, man, how you doing? And it's just kind of like, okay, he's rubbing his hands, pacing back and forth. Oh, okay, here. And next thing you know, I heard him say, okay, here they come. Here they come. I'm like,
I had the clammy hands, and I just kind of, because it was a hard
thing absolutely
to go through. But, we had a little bit of time as a staff to know before the actual announcement.
Yep.
So kind of being able to get our thoughts together and, how we're going to corral the team, because Coach Finley did make a big impact on the entire program.
Yeah. Yes.
But also the community too, I think.
Yeah.
Just kind of, how all this was handled. I think we're just going to keep on pushing forward.
Couldn't agree more.
I like how you slipped in that your birthday is less than 40 days away.
So that's what I said. So I'm almost 29.
So, hey, folks, listen. And
if you see Tyler Chapa on March 6th,
happy birthday. And send your cards to
get the Venmo.
Waldorf College, Tyler Chapa, birthday fund, 106 South 6th Street, Forest City, Iowa, 50436. And I'm sure it'll find its way
down to the
put it in the gridiron.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Big checks, please.
Oh, let's see what happens. Yeah, maybe we can get some gridiron
If they're
checks.
too big, I might need a.
Then send
if they're too big, I might just need a.
Then send it to P.O. Box 125.
That's right.
125.
You know what? We'll get it sorted out. We'll send the checks and we'll sort it out from there. Let's do that.
Exactly. I'll just slip it down. Hey, could you sign this real quick, Chop?
Right.
And boom, endorsed.
What was that? Don't worry about it.
Hey, you don't worry about it, all right? Exactly.
That's right. I got a funny birthday card on my birthday. My mother-in-law gave it to me and my father-in-law. They said, if you can guess a number between 3 and 5, you can have $1 million. And I'm like, this is amazing. So I opened it up thinking it's 4, and it's like 3.72125. It's like, come on. I mean, it was ridiculous. So, hilarious.
Math.
Funny. Yeah.
What kind of math?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, shenanigans.
If you believe in decimals.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we do. We deal in decimals all the time.
Well, that's true. I suppose there's stats.
I don't.
Right. We only use whole numbers here, kids.
Whole numbers, man.
That's how when you're recruiting, you're like, listen, we don't use
math,
decimals in our stats here.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody, we round up. If you're 0.5 or higher, I don't even know what a 0.5 is.
If
hypothetically
you're 2.5,
speaking,
you're 3. Let's go.
Yeah.
Hey, don't be coming at me with that multiplication. We do addition down here.
That's right.
So are you still going to be doing a lot of stuff with D-backs, or are you just going to be solely the defensive coordinator and have a stable of minions plying your wishes?
I will not have a stable of minions. I will still be with the defensive backs. I don't think I'll be doing all the special teams anymore, just because game day stuff, I'll have to make all the adjustments on the sideline while the punt team's going on. I just won't have time for that. But, Coach G staying, he's going to be the run game coordinator, so he's going to help me out with, the big boys in the trenches.
Yeah.
And then, we're kind of in a process of hiring somebody to be on the defensive side of the ball with us.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, and we've talked about this when you've been on a previous podcast. You're from the San Antonio area. Out of high school, you went to Abilene Christian. You came up to Doane to finish your college career. You coached there for a little while. Yep. Coach Littrell brought you up here. Now, recruiting-wise, football, the mecca of football is in Texas, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So does that still lend I guess maybe even a pipeline between, what you can do for recruiting and the state of Texas to pick up some of these studs?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously our goal is every single year is gonna be, Iowa and Minnesota, just because I think Iowa honestly is one of the most over recruited areas, just because of how, there's a ton of schools here. I think schools in Minnesota and South Dakota come here a ton. There's good football here. I think wrestling has a big part in that. If you're a good wrestler, I think you're probably a good football player too.
Especially O-linemen.
O-linemen, but some defensive backs who are great tacklers could be really good wrestlers. And,
right.
But yeah, I'll never stop recruiting Texas. The challenge is getting them understanding, it's cold up here. I finally got some gloves here. I got my leather black gloves over there I just got.
Wow. Yeah. Fancy.
But just, having some of the, and it's kind of surprising, or it's kind of funny to see like how surprised some of these kids are that come up from Texas, and they're in the locker room with our Iowa guys and they practice with our Iowa, and they're like, man, first coming up here, I thought I was going to be better than these guys, but I'm not, I got to sit behind a McCoy Yakel or a Trevor Gunderson or, someone like that who, a kid from Texas probably never heard of the state of Iowa before. So
right.
Just kind of opening
That's
their
good
eyes.
to know.
Yeah,
that's good for the Iowa kids to know. And you're right, there are a ton of college programs. I mean, that is something that
and
I don't think people think about in Iowa. Yeah. We have so many private colleges and our state schools you can name on a hand, but there are so many private schools everywhere that it just makes and Minnesota's similar to that too. So between the two states, right in this radius, there's just lots and lots and lots of places.
Well, and there's good college football here. You think of this year's NAIA national champions, Northwestern College over in Northwest Iowa. This year, the year before, it was Morningside here in Iowa. If you look into D3, Wartburg made a deep run into the postseason.
Central did last year.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of great schools,
which is and in recruiting the type of kids that we want from Iowa, we go up against those schools, and
that's amazing to me. To be completely honest, I just don't get that.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What I mean is
defend yourself.
Well, no, I don't have to. They have to defend themselves. I don't understand why you'd pay to play, and that is crazy to me. So, I appreciate the private schools that we have here in the state of Iowa. I certainly appreciate the Lutheran tradition and the Christian traditions that most of these schools come with. And the Iowa Conference is very good football in Division III.
Yes.
Where they do not have athletic scholarships. They have bogus scholarships for leadership and wizardry or whatever.
Yeah,
but they do not have athletic scholarships in the Division III of the NCAA because they pretend, and this is, now I'm coming out just hard on this.
Do it.
Because the Division III concept is that these are the schools that have a level of liberal arts education that is in some way superior in the minds of the people that believe that that's important, and nobody believes that. Nobody believes that the name on that paper from your university is important. And I'm only saying that because I just happen to know a lot of people that hire people, and they just don't care where you come, what kind of person are you, and that's what matters, right?
No.
And so to go play a sport, there's so many programs, and it just astounds me that Division III is still a thing.
And what I'll add to that too is you think about the type of kid that wants to pay to play. Right, they must love football.
Well, and that's right.
But only like 40.
Correct.
They only have to pay about
they've got the heart for that.
That's what I want, though. That's what we all
100%.
want here, right? So, like when we go up against those schools, we understand. Okay, we got it right. We're recruiting a kid, who's willing to do that. Let's get him here. Let's get him a football scholarship and tell he's going to be a good player for us one day.
Yeah.
Rather than like a kid who, if you're a good player, you're going to be recruited by all the good D3 NAI schools in this state. Now, 4 years ago, 4.5, 5 years ago, we were not even competing. Like, they wouldn't be like, oh, coach, it's between so-and-so and you guys. Well, now it's like, I had a parent text me last night saying, we enjoyed you guys. You guys have a great staff. The visit was awesome. We went up to this Division III school over here. They have this program. It's like splitting hairs between you and the other school. And to me, it's like, well, we're making some progress here. Because,
that's correct. Yes. I get it.
Yeah. I know.
I do. I mean, I get, and look, lots of lots of people send their kids to Wartburg and Luther.
Good
The president of the GridIron Club is a football player, graduate from Luther. Courtney played football out at Luther. That's a beautiful campus. It's Wartburg, I think, is a campus the way a campus is supposed to look like. I don't have anything against those schools. I just think it's insane that if you have the ability to play a sport, that you know that somebody wants you to come and play, that you've got a plethora, which is a word that I think was made up in college, actually.
It's a good word.
Plethora. So that you've just got so many opportunities, and you're choosing the most expensive one, and that is just crazy to me, because the other thing, Waldorf is a private school. We went from for-profit to not-for-profit again, which is wonderful. But at the same token, private schools do cost more. They're not getting lots of state aid. State tax dollars aren't paying for those things. They do have, Iowa tuition grant and things like that here in the great state of Iowa. But that being said, they're doing it foundationally. They're doing it themselves. So that tuition matters. Waldorf is incredibly and has always been very affordable. They haven't played this silly game of saying that it was actually started by the University of Chicago. Back in the late 70s and 80s, somewhere in there, they decided, here's what we can do. Now, we've got this school of economists, so we can figure this out. And I like some of their economists, F.A. Hayek and whatnot, but they're like, we can either lower our price and bring more people in to bring the money in that we need to sustain our organization, or... and then wait for it, we can raise our price insanely and then make it seem exclusive. Nothing has changed about our university.
Right.
Nothing has changed. And they went with option B. They raised their price exclusively. So ridiculous. The University of Chicago did that. Other schools took note, and they're like, oh, so that's the game we're playing now. So now I don't think Wartburg is elite. I don't think Luther is elite. I don't think Central is elite. But if you ask some of their alumni, they'll say, of course we're elite. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you're just not. And that is not and I don't mean to be mean or hard on you, but wow, that is the truth.
That was Troy Thompson speaking.
Yeah.
So I just don't get why that happens. And and folks parents buy into that.
Well, let's get real honest.
Too much money.
Okay, so you go to school at any one of these Iowa schools, including the universities, the large universities.
This is not what I thought.
No, we're not talking football here.
I'm just listening.
But here's the reality of the situation, Troy, is that if I decide that I'm going to move down to Arizona and I'm going to get a job, I just graduated from college, and they're going to say, where'd you graduate from? Now, if you don't have Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Cornell, Stanford, something like that, that's going to raise an eyebrow and say, I was summa cum laude in Harvard Business School.
Porcupine State.
Well, but then it's one of those things where it's like, so where did you, Wartburg?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
And hey, I love Wartburg, but at the same time, it's one of those that it doesn't matter the name on the top unless it's an elite institution that everybody on the globe knows. I'm sorry, it's not Cambridge.
No, but that's what we tell our players.
Correct.
That's what we tell our players and their families, which is what we're saying is true, is as long as you are able to show somebody that you can achieve higher learning, getting a 4-year degree at a college or a university, you're going to go to the top of the pile. And so we say, you want to be here for 4 years to make the next 40 years of your life better.
Amen.
Yeah. So we're kind of, yeah.
And I think that is something that we've seen from your players to come, bring the escalator down a little bit. I'll tell you that
I'm getting hot.
We get excited
this
about
room,
that.
Geez, it's 10 degrees in here.
We're alumni of Waldorf, and it's something that drives me crazy because it's close to my heart. Where I look at it and I go, you've bought a bill of goods that it isn't going to work, and I don't like that. But I also told my kids the same thing. So I had and I still have 2 more that have to go through college, maybe, or whatever, and then I've got 2 that have completed college, and they get the same dad speech I paid for my degree, and the way I did it was through scholarship, academic, and other things. And then when I ran out of money, I joined the military, and then I paid for the rest of my degrees that way, and it worked well. And my wife, she didn't join the military; she paid for her schooling as well, no student debt. And I said, I don't know how you're going to pay for your school, but that's your degree, not mine. So you'll have to figure that out. Now, fortunately, they've had, they're good students, and that's always been a priority for us. So, like, to any parent listening to this, the probably kid already goes to Waldorf, to be honest with you. I think random parents are just like, oh, let's tell children of this. You never know. But like if they're listening and they're thinking, well, your grades do matter so much. Such a huge part of recruiting, because you have to show that the kid can make it in college. Otherwise, it's really a waste of time, because if they're not eligible academically, and this is a college experience, like, what are you doing here? Right. And so they have to be able to do that. And I know you guys seek that out, and that makes a big difference. But they also, if they're going to play, they have to realize that there are also levels. How many kids are like, I'm just waiting for, Iowa to call. I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, buddy, you're a senior and it's March.
They've been done.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah, they're done.
And a lot of kids don't understand that. And, it's the same way, when I was at Doane is a lot of those kids would take a preferred walk-on to Nebraska over a scholarship from what I was given. It's kind of, sometimes with those with some kids here, they would rather take a PWO to one of the big universities rather than, hey, buddy, you could come here. We got 135 kids on our team. We're going to know all your names. We're going to know where you're from. We're going to know who your parents are. Yep. And the opportunity to play earlier is there.
Yeah, because of that movie, Rudy. It just wrecked it for so many. Think of it like, oh, Rudy. It's like, okay, but still, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or then they talk about like I'm a big Thielen fan for the Vikings. Yep. He's a success story from Division II, and he had to fight his way in, and now he's kind of a seems like a franchise guy, although he's in.
And there are guys like that. There are guys like that.
That's the problem. Yeah. That's one guy.
Yeah, there's and
you're not that guy.
And kids will look up to that. Guys will look up to that. But like, I think at least here, I can't speak for anywhere else, but here is our track record of developing our kids, and like a McCoy Yakel, right? He played running back at West Hancock, where they don't play. There ain't no high safety playing cover one, covering numbers to numbers, or running cover three stuff. But teaching him how to do that, and statistically, he is the best safety to ever play at Waldorf. Well, when I first got there, he had a broken neck, and he was 165 pounds.
Right.
And when he left here as a fifth-year senior, he was 205 pounds. Led the team
ripped,
tackles,
twisted steel, and sex appeal with his hair and attitude.
The hair was from me though. He copied old Coach Chapa.
Yeah. We gave him a bad time about his hair.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, he doesn't.
And we really should get. Troy. One of the things that we need to go back on, and not to jump off of this podcast, but I think we've promised DQ McCobb a meal.
Oh,
and so we got to have him out here sometime.
For sure.
And we should bring in the real McCoy.
Okay.
As well, and get those two gentlemen on to talk about their team.
You talked about these kids coming from Texas in 5, 6A football, and they're doing great, and then they're coming up here and they find out that, like, everybody in college of any program, whether it's football or theater or whatever, you come in thinking you're kind of a big deal, and then you find out you're nothing yet, but you're going to be something.
That's why we recruited you.
Trust the process. You're here for a reason.
You will be a very good player.
That's right. Yeah.
Trust the process.
And the ones that get recruited as athlete, like that's not a bad thing. Like, we just think we can do whatever we want with you as long as you're open to it.
Yeah, well, we want and another part is, like, we want you on our team. We don't know in what capacity. You're a leader, you're a great student, you're a great person. We love your family, you're athletic. We'll figure that out.
Right.
We just want you on our team.
Correct. I love talking recruiting, and this is the season for it. You're one of the better recruiters that we certainly have on that, and probably I'd say in just the athletic department.
He's at least in the top 3 behind Coach Stewart.
Stu. Yeah. Right on. Pulling them in.
Well, and that was interesting because, today before I left work, I was having a conversation with a gentleman by the name of Bill Knowlton.
Bill, he played for Bemidji.
Yeah, he sure did. And Bill is a big Waldorf fan. He doesn't ever miss the podcast because he's our number 1 fan.
Oh, nice.
We're gonna tag him on that.
Okay.
But he was just talking about how he also is just so impressed with the brand of football that Waldorf brings out onto the field. And he said, he goes, I don't think a lot of people know that. He said, it's fun to watch. And he said, you really don't understand the speed and the intensity until you're at a game and you see some pad on pad, and he said there's some big hits going on. There's a lot of speed. He said Waldorf's brand of football is fantastic.
Think about some Will Strickland hits late in the season this year, and it makes
my ribs hurt.
Those are a little different.
I can see it and hear it up in the box, and it's like, good Lord.
Well, the other part to all of this is like we did a thing maybe a year and a half ago. Well, maybe this time last year. We called it football school. So, every day was a different topic, or every Wednesday was a different topic. So we would bring, the offense would do their thing, and then defensively we would talk through, what is an offense trying to do during a 2-minute drill or a 4-minute drill, or who are they reading in an RPO? So we're just trying to develop their football IQ. So then in the fall, when we're breaking down film and they're like, oh, I can look back in my notes and say, oh, they're doing this kind of RPO. I'm the one that they're reading. How can I disguise it for that quarterback to make it hard on him? And I think, little thing, that's 30, 45 minutes once a week that we did.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see these guys are flying around.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about Will Strickland, and Will hits like a ton of bricks.
I always get nervous, though, because...
he plays with abandon.
Just like
that he did targeting. That's right.
A hard hit.
A hard hit for a referee.
Yeah,
he might not even have seen it happen, but he might have heard it and been like, "Oh,
yeah, that happened."
Oh Lord.
Well, and it was interesting because
I'm positive that did happen.
I don't remember which game it was, but Will put
that's our job.
He put a stick on a guy, and unfortunately, the young man didn't jump up. He stayed on the field for a while, and while their staff was attending to him. I ran some water out to the officials. I remember the crew boss for this officiating crew out of the GPAC goes, "My God, where did you get that guy?"
Yes.
He's like, he hits like a Mack truck. He goes, "It was a huge hard hit." He goes, "Totally legal."
Yeah.
But he goes, "That was a hit." And I said, "Well,
Monster's you.
He's a special young man."
That's what we like.
Captain of our team, though. He's working his butt off in the off season.
Oh, man, he's he's such a stand-up human being. That's the best part about him.
He lifts weights at 5:30, but he's there at 4:30 with the first group.
That's what I'm talking about.
And
that's when I'm up.
Yeah,
that's the right time of the afternoon. No, in the afternoon.
Yeah, the afternoon. You sleep for a long time.
Huh?
If that's when you're up, you sleep for a long time.
Oh, he's retired.
I thought it was 4:30. I was so impressed for a hot minute. I was like, 4:30 in the morning? Oh, yeah.
But the reality is you tell Will Strickland, hey, look, I need you here at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Will Strickland's going to be there at 4:30
drinking some sort of pre-workout drink that he always offers me, and I'm like, no, dude, whatever gets you going, I don't need that, man. I don't need that.
Well,
but what he's doing too, and Tay Buchanan, and Christian Giroux, some of these other guys are like, they're doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're showing the younger guys, Case and Handles, and some of our older guys are showing these younger guys like, hey, Coach said be here at 4:30. We're here at 4:10.
There you go.
Let's have our shoes tied. We're stretched up. We're ready to go, and we're not getting ready at 4:30. That's kind of the change we've been.
Yeah, it's a discipline that makes the difference between a good team and a great team.
And Paramore really hit that home last week on the podcast, just about how there's nothing wrong with what Coach Finley put out there for a product, but he said this is really a culture change. It's one of those things that we're going to hold these guys, accountable to the weights and to the studies and all that stuff, because everything that you do from here until August matters so incredibly much, and that's really where the work is done, so that you have the success on the field.
Right. How much has jump back to recruiting a little bit here? How much has the portal affected things, good, bad, or indifferent, for our program?
I think it's more on the better side for us.
I agree.
Because in the NAI, there is no transfer portal.
Right.
No.
If you leave, you get your, you get the AD to sign off, but
go back to the huddle profile.
Correct.
But the portal is like, that's kind of like and nobody goes into the portal to come NAI. We understand that. But, there's so many different ways you can filter it to what you're looking for. And so, we we're focused on our high school guys first, and then we're going to get some of our junior college guys later on, and then whatever we need to fill the rest of our needs, we're going to jump and what some high school guys don't understand is there's 35 or 27,000, 35,000 kids in this thing.
Yes.
From D3, D2, D1, D1 AA. And, some of those guys are walk-ons, and you can see that if they're walk-ons, where they get money, where they're not getting money. So I think we're able to be a little bit more picky.
There you go.
When we log into it.
I would think that the transfer portal for Division I schools, especially when go back at Colorado, for example, new coach comes in and basically tells people some of you aren't going to be here.
Yeah.
And so that makes a completely different experience for what we just talked about at the beginning of the podcast with your announcement at with the transition between Findlay and Paramore and the pucker factor that was in the room with the boys at Waldorf, very different than what they were experiencing out in Colorado, because it was pretty much blatantly saying, this is your new quarterback and everybody else is on notice and all that other stuff. And we're talking about Deion Sanders or whatnot. So, so that does then flush people out too.
Yes.
So you have high level players that have been in a program that are looking at the writing on the wall and saying, this isn't going to work out. And the more crazy, in my opinion, back and forth in this portal between one program and another, I find it incredibly disloyal and a crappy system, to be honest with you. However,
and throw in NIL.
It might work better for us.
Yeah, there's good and bad to it. I mean, the kids are going to do whatever they think is best for them and their careers and families and stuff, and the NCAA has given a platform to do so. For us, and Coach Paramore and I literally just talked about this today, but the smaller college experience is way more relationship driven, right? We want all of our kids to be here, right? We brought some of these kids to Forest City, Iowa, and they've experienced our game day stuff. They've been out to the bowling alley for March Madness. They've been around you guys and other people in the community, and they really, really like it here. And because we had a 7-week break for Christmas, and there was some of our out of state kids that were like, man, Coach, I tell you what, about week 5, I was ready to come back.
There you go.
And it's like,
okay,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
At least
really
you weren't thinking, I could stay home.
Right.
Because you have goals and you have values and your parents are invested and all that kind of stuff.
That had to be a concern. This was the first year that Waldorf moved to this. We're going to take our break before Thanksgiving and come back after the New Year. Yeah. And that had to be a question mark for particularly the fall programs. I think that they worked through the, basketball. They're still playing into December, regardless of whether any students are around. How did that turn out?
I thought, the concern was that kids would go home and this was, I think university-wide, go home and for that long a period of time and say, oh, I'm making my own money, whatever. I don't need school.
Right.
How I thought of it was, you get to go home and help. A lot of our kids are helping their parents pay their bill.
Okay.
You got 7 weeks to work, so you can make, decent money in 7 weeks rather than 4 or 3.5 or whatever it was. And, we didn't lose anybody.
Yeah, that's good.
Which was good. And so, I thought, I don't know if they're going to keep it. I don't know if that's
I think it's a very unique feature. I think that they should, as long as we didn't lose anybody on your program, and hopefully the other programs are have the same thing to report.
And I think they didn't want some student athletes having to buy tickets to go home for Thanksgiving, come back for 2 weeks and buy another ticket to go back home for Christmas. So, commended, good job to the administration for, I think that part was like thinking about the kids and, if you're not financially stable enough to do that, now you only got to buy one ticket.
That's right. Yeah.
True.
But I don't think
gas money, which is about the same price.
Yeah. Or just time to be at home with your family and with your friends. And that doesn't mean that they can't, that they shouldn't be working for the programs that they're in. So how did you manage that? So they go home for 7 weeks, and that doesn't. So I can say that I didn't work out for a little bit longer than 7 weeks several times in my life.
Yeah.
And then there's a quick decline. So how do you?
Well, so the expectation was we had a team meeting before we left, and the expectation was, go home, maybe take a week off. It was a grinder of a season. It was a long season.
Healthy.
We played a lot. Some guys were dealing with if you need to get surgery now. But I think what we told them was, but when we get back, we're gonna max out. So we're gonna know exactly who worked out and exactly
there you
who
go.
did not. So
it's a test.
It's the expectation of we're gonna get like day one in the weight room is gonna be a max out. So you better be ready to go.
Right. That's outstanding. Did it work out?
I thought so. I thought they were throwing around some weight. Guys were pumped up. The music was like
in my first, I came to that first team meeting a few weeks ago after everybody's back on campus, and Vontae Harper, that young man, he
put on like 14 pounds.
14 pounds
of good weight.
Oh yeah,
nice.
He's chiseled out of blue steel. I mean,
nice.
He's all sorts of happy. Of course, he's talking about how cold it is wearing a tank top.
He was wearing a tank top.
Come on, Vontae.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
No.
You do better than that.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing.
So, Coach, one of the things is that I don't
want fake that test. That's what I was thinking.
No, you really can't.
There was a lot of tests when I went to Waldorf that I crammed for the night before.
Yeah.
And did okay.
Well, sure. Can't fake it in the weight room.
You cannot be like, I'm going to cram.
Once you're under that iron. Once you're under that iron.
Come out to Troy's like, all right.
You can't cram for that.
Unless
I can't
here in your
my hands.
If we're in your gym, maybe.
Yeah.
Get a membership.
So without giving away any secrets, obviously, Coach Finley, he was he came in as defensive coordinator and he retained that title after he was named head coach. Is there any philosophical differences in what we've seen from Waldorf that you'd like to bring to the table? Because this is kind of your time. This is one of those things where now the defense is yours.
Yeah, it's Chapa's now.
And so you can boss around Coach Gould as much as you have to.
I feel like he was doing that already.
Well,
no, I don't
think so.
We're a team. I got to have. If I'm the smartest one in the room, it's probably not a good thing, right? You got to have good people around you. But
nice.
And we got to understand kind of the timeline of how this has all happened. I came in. The running joke was I was here longer than the head coach, right?
Yeah.
I came
2
in
weeks.
About 20 days before Coach Finley did, and it was my first year being a GA. I quickly realized in our first defensive meeting I didn't know anything about football like I thought I did. I played corner, so you're kind of on your own little island. You know what your safety's doing, and if there's a check to be made, he's telling you what the check is. Yep. So there wasn't a whole lot of football IQ, but I took a lot of information from him. I knew he's the one who really taught me how to take notes in a meeting.
Yeah.
I literally write everything down that comes out of people's mouths. With some of that stuff is funny. Put little quotations around it.
Yeah.
The first thing we said when we got here is, we're going to work on our tackling, our fundamentals, and our pursuit to the football. And that has not changed in the 4 seasons that we've been here. Now our schemes have evolved and we've adapted to what we see. And now I know how to adapt. I know how to be organized. I know how to organize a play call sheet. I know how to game plan. I know what to look for. And so those things were invaluable. I wouldn't have learned those. And one thing when I got here, Coach Littrell told me, he was like, hey, this guy's coached, he called a defense in the national championship.
Yeah.
So, you got to learn as much as you can from him. And here we are 4 years later, and, he's taken me to Iowa State to learn some of their defense. He's taken me to, the Gophers to learn some of that. Illinois State. We've been all over the place, and we're running our same stuff, but there's a lot of different things. You look at our defense 4 years ago to what it is now. It's the same but different. We're doing some different things out of it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think the guys are pretty excited. That you're coming from the defensive back world to be the defensive coordinator. I think especially your defensive backs are pretty excited about some of the different things you're going to throw out there. And
they have all kinds of suggestions. I'm like,
imagine that.
Like, guys,
yeah, what was it?
Quit talking to me.
Didn't Will say something about 3 high safeties?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we're, we do some, one thing that I'm very grateful for is we did multiple defenses in multiple situations. We could have a 3 down line, we got 4 down line, we could have 3 high safeties, we could be doing cover 3, cover 1, cover 2. We were doing so many different things to where now, I have a toolbox full of, well, we're getting this and this isn't the answer, but I've got, references and I've got other things to look back on and say, well, back in 2020, we did this again, so that working under the same guy and
right.
him being a good, developer, that's one of his skills too. He's really good at developing not just players, but coaches. And, so we're going to.
Well, and the heat's on you, isn't it though? Because now it's like, you're that guy.
Yeah.
You're the one that anybody under your tutelage, whether they be a GA, student assistant, another assistant coach, position coach, things like that they're going to be like, okay, now it's your time, to, working with the new head coach, Paramore, that, he's an offensive mind at the same time, but I know that he's going to have opinions on everything, because he's a very holistic approach type guy. It's not just I'll be the offensive guy, you be the defensive guy, but now's your time, man.
Yeah. And so I think it's important to have good people around you who you genuinely care about, who you can have a relationship outside the office with. I think that's important, as you've seen in our staffs in years past. And I also think it's important to give the other guys on the staff ownership of their group. That's one thing that Coach Finley has taught me, is like, you are the head coach of your position. Now, I'll be the leader of the entire unit, and if something needs to be fixed, we'll talk about it, we'll fix it. And the same goes, for Coach Paramore. He's going to be a great leader of these guys, and him and I are going to have all kinds of discussions, I'm sure, on what needs to. But at the end of the day, he's my head coach, and what he says when that door closes and we go out to the football field, that's what it is. And that's kind of what I've been around this whole time, and I'm sure he'll have all kinds of funky suggestions, but I'm sure some of them are really good, and that's why I'm always open to learn. I'm always open to different packages, different whatever. If we have the guys to do it, we're going to do it.
Well, and somebody like Coach Paramore, he understands the intricacies of offense and what people are trying to do, pre-snap, and then what it turns into. That helps. The defensive mind as well, because this is what these guys are trying to do. So when you're watching film, it's like, hey, look at this. This is what we're trying to do here. That's what they're trying to do. And so that's going to be huge.
And that's what some people, maybe a lot of people don't understand is, whenever we, Coach Finley, me, Coach G, had questions on, we think this is what they're reading, attacking, tell me, are we right? And then sometimes we were right. Most times we were right. But sometimes he was like, no, I think they're doing this.
Right.
So, like, he would come on the board and draw for us, and, vice versa, of him and Coach Ani, and had questions for us.
Right.
But, like, we're still a team, like, we're in our own war rooms planning for games and stuff like that, but, like, we still come together because we're trying to both win ball games.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's right. We talked about the age, we talked about the age of the head coach, we talk about, all of that stuff, but it sounds to me, well, I'm going to try to correlate it with something that I've heard comedians say, because there are some comedians who start, they start being a comedian when they're 50.
Yeah.
And then there's comedians who started doing stand-up when they were like 18. So the age of a comedian isn't the age of that person. The age of the comedian is, how long have you been doing stand-up? And that's kind of where we're at now as we look at our coaching. How long have we been coaching? So with Paramore, for example, he's 26, but he has been coaching for a long time, and he's got the mind of a coach. And you've been coaching for a long time, so it's seniority in coaching and that experience, that maturity for the game. That's not necessarily tied to how many birthdays you've had.
Yeah, right. And I think the experience of running multiple defenses and playing, different teams and studying different systems, but then in the off season going to see, like, another thing I've learned being here is, like, you never stop learning. You never think that you have all the answers, because, you might go somewhere and you might teach someone else something, but you're also going to, like, we went to a clinic with a staff a couple days ago, and I took 10 pages of notes. I took 10 pages of notes. Am I going to ever use all of that? Probably not, but I could probably pull, 2 or 3 things from that. And so I think in the off season, and that's, something that with my experience in doing this is like, well, you got to get out and go see what other staffs do. You got to get out and see, how do they organize practice? Is there a better way to do it? Is there a better way to organize a call sheet? Or is there a better way to run cover 3 or whatever the case is? But you just never stop that learning.
And we talk a little bit about, as young as our staff is, the experience, the depth and breadth of that is pretty remarkable. But, I got to be honest. And, when I think about Chase Paramore, if we go back and say 10 years ago, Chase Paramore just got his brand new driver's license.
I know, right?
He's laying down in Dothan, Alabama in his bed. And I can't believe that he's not thinking about, when I'm head coach, I'm going to get some boiled peanuts.
Yeah.
And then what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be, so is that something that has always been, from the time that you were playing high school ball down at Earl Warren in San Antonio, was that something that's like, someday I'm going to do this?
Well, not necessarily. I knew I wanted to be, my first original dream was to be a juvenile probation officer. And so as I got through...
So you're a football coach.
Doing the same thing. No, you're still impacting the lives.
That's what I was getting at, right?
18 to 22-year-olds who just
guiding
aren't
lives.
In trouble, and you're keeping them on the straight and narrow, and you're able to, give your life experiences to them. Now, hopefully they listen, but as you guys are both parents, that they probably don't. They got
never had that.
They got to hit the wall themselves.
Sometimes, literally, have to hit the wall or the door. In my oldest son's case, he came home with a broken hand one time after a summer camping trip. How'd that happen? Well, it turned out he had punched a door.
Never know.
Weird. Yeah.
But then as as I went through college football and I had the opportunity to coach right after I was done playing, I was like, I didn't have anybody in my family that was a college coach, but I knew I was good at playing corner, and I knew coverages and stuff like that. So I was like, let me jump on this.
Give this a shot.
Well, when we talked to Dave Bolstorff, one of the things that struck me about that is, he started out he came to Waldorf to be the chaplain, ended up helping as the assistant coach. There were only 2 in that program. The field's named after him now and has been for quite some time. So, but what struck me about that whole situation is you look at him well, I came to Waldorf to be the chaplain, to be a minister at a Lutheran 2-year college to the students at this Lutheran 2-year college as a Lutheran chaplain. He ended up ministering to more people effectively because he was the coach for 40 years than I think that he did, even though he led chapel for almost that entire time as well.
And you can always learn X's and O's, I think. You can always go places and learn X's and O's. So even if you didn't necessarily think you were going to be a coach, you could be a good coach if you put the time in. It's all about, do you want to help these young men, and do you want to be a positive role model? Because some of these guys don't have that, and you want to be that in their life. Same thing with him. He wanted to be able to minister to people and help people. Well, you can learn the X's and O's, but you're going to have a bigger impact on probably more people.
Well, he said, I think the big takeaway, there were many actually, and that was a great interview. And one of the highlights of the season, not to take away from anyone else's interview, but he said, be authentic. And if you can teach and I know that comes from just so many years of being a person of faith, a chaplain, but also the head football coach, dealing with so many people. How many players did he recruit, bring to this small community, wear the purple and gold and the black, and do all of those, and just he's like, be authentic, and that is, I think that's such a challenge for any young person. It certainly is a challenge today. I don't know if it's more or less. I guess we always think that the younger generation has a bigger challenge than we did in some of those regards. But how do you coach the Jimmies and the Joes, I guess, to be authentic, to figure out who they are and what kind of person they're going to be when they walk across that stage?
It starts with, you have to spend time with them outside of football. And so one of our big things that we try to do is, we do a lot of our own fundraising. I know the GridIron Club does an awesome job, but we'll go to we've worked a ton of jobs, security jobs. And it's kind of funny to see that the night before, the kids who we were like, hey, you guys got to get up at 4 a.m. We're taking a bus up to Minneapolis. We're going to go work this job. They're like, oh, really? But then when you're there with your buddies. You're getting, I'm getting to know players that I haven't got to know probably to the fullest extent. And then I think it's your leadership style too. Like, are you the same man that they see every single day on and off the field? Or you told them you're going to be one way, but then you just totally are a different person.
Right.
And so, even 18 to 22-year-olds, they're still sponges. They're still going to soak up everything. And so I think teaching people how to be authentic, you got to be authentic yourself.
Couldn't agree more. So one of the things that I've been wondering, particularly about your situation, is a lot of us had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with your dad, Tony.
Yeah.
He was up here during the football season, got to see a couple games and hung out, and you'd see him just kind of walking around town with a big smile on his face. But how did the conversation go with Papa Tony when you called him up and said, "Hey, Dad, guess what?"
This is kind of what he's been praying for me. I've shared my goals with him. He knows that my at least these past 6-ish, 7 years that I've been doing this, he knows I wanted to be good enough to be able to call a defense. And him and Coach Finley are good friends too. I mean, he's up here every summer. Right. He spent 2 weeks. Coach Finley asked if he wanted to do the chapel for our guys, and so there's a relationship there. So even the news of him leaving, my dad was like, "Dang, what's gonna happen?" And I was like, "Well, I think I'm gonna be the next defensive coordinator." And he was like, "Well, this is a blessing in disguise, because we're sad to have him leave. Great opportunity for him and his family, but also the one thing he said that stuck with me is like, well, he prepared you for this.
There you go.
You and him work well together, and all the people that have been here in our time, we've all done good things, but he was ecstatic. He said, "Well, I'll be back up there in September for more of those."
That's good news. I can't wait to see him. He's an exceptional human being.
Yeah, no, he just hanging out at the tailgate before the games. I got him a little sideline pass so he could be on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, it was awesome for me because he had never seen me coach before. He could watch it on the live stream and stuff, but just and he had the players over a couple times and made them dinner. So like he's all about that. He loves the relationships.
Right.
And he's excited to come back.
Well, military guy, he understands how important that is. That we may not agree, but you got to trust me, and we're going to do that by building a rapport outside of what we do on a normal day-to-day, the old 9 to 5. Yeah.
And that's who I learned it from. Yeah, that's who I learned it from.
Well, fantastic.
Oh,
fantastic.
Props to Pops.
That's a good place to. That's a good way to send it out the door.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And so, Coach, number one, super excited that there wasn't any institutional changes that we can keep you around here because you're one of our favorite turds. Let's be honest. And
I appreciate
that's a good way to.
Me. I appreciate
nice way to put it.
Especially in the brand new bunker.
Yeah.
This is quite a.
The bunker's been upgraded. It's pretty nice.
All right.
I'm going to have to get a gym membership.
I'll have to do that.
I don't know if you can afford it.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, we have to establish the rate.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, all right. Coach, super excited to see what you throw together for a defense. It's going to be pretty great to see everything that's coming these other offenses' way this upcoming season. But we got a lot of work to do. Between recruiting and getting our current players ready to go. So I'm nothing but excited. But I want to thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate you guys having me back.
No, it's always a pleasure talking to Tyler Chapa. He's one of our favorite guys. So. Well, and that's going to do it for this episode of the Waldorf GridIron Podcast. It's season 2, episode 3. So want to thank Tyler Chapa for taking time out of his very busy schedule for being here. For Troy Thompson and Andy Buffington, thanks for listening, and forever and always, go Warriors. You can join the Waldorf GridIron Club today by sending a check to the Waldorf GridIron Club, P.O. Box 125, Forest City, Iowa 50436.
Or message us by visiting and like our Facebook page, Waldorf GridIron Club, or email us at waldorfgridironclub@gmail.com.
Or it's as easy as clicking on the Support the Show link on your phone. Become a patron of the GridIron Club by choosing to support the program monthly. $100 is the Black membership at $9 a month.
The $250 level is Purple at $25 a month.
$500 is the Warrior membership at $45 a month.
The All-Conference level is $750 or $65 a month.
$1,000 is the All-American membership at $85 a month.
The Champion level is $125 a month, and that's $1,500 a year.
$2,500 is the Hall of Fame membership.
The Waldorf GridIron Club podcast is hosted by Andy Buffington and me, Troy Thompson. Produced by Sunnyside Farmstead Studios in beautiful rural Forest City, Iowa. The music is by Christian Leo. The Waldorf GridIron Club is a nonprofit 501c3 organization dedicated to football student-athletes of Waldorf University. Our mission is to assist the program in maintaining the best small college football experience in America.
Started.
Yes, I'm looking.
This is my mom's.
I was
my
like,
mom's
what
ringtone.
is that? It's not coming through my headphones.
What is that song?
Mama said.
I was confused because I was like, my headsets aren't working.
Yeah, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Truckers driving by with the windows down.
This is Troy's favorite song.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was funny, and she doesn't know that's what it is, so it's funny.
Of course.
It was his walk-up song in baseball.
I had when I used to do ringtones for each individual person. I had the Imperial Death March or the Imperial the dun 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 every time the wife called, and then and then one day my daughters heard it. Mom, did you know? Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
they snitched on you.
You were here when my mother-in-law called me, and that ringtone is the dun dun, whatever that law show is.
Law and Order.
Law and Order. Boom boom.
Nice. I was freaking me out for a second.
Okay.
And then it kept happening.
Yeah.
I was like,
all right, I put mine on stun.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, well, there we go.
So we'll get into this, and we'll talk a little bit about what I'm going to have for supper tonight, since I'm flying solo.